Mm. Okay. Mm. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Airiyanam, Namo Uvajjayanam, Namo Loe Savasahunam. Okay, who is going to tell me which chapter we are on?
Chapter 6.
Was that Viraj?
Yes.
Great. See, he was not here last 2-3 classes. He's keeping up.
I had some help from our satsang, so that's why I'm.
Oh, I thought because you watched the last YouTube, you know.
I did.
All right. So we were on Shravak ke Barav Vrat. And I was told if you guys still have doubts about the Mati, Shrut, and all that, I can briefly cover that again in case you think there was still any doubts from the class. Okay. So we'll finish this chapter first. And then remind me before we end the class, we'll quickly understand that also. Um, so, okay. We finished. Did we finish Ahimsa Satyanuvrat?
No, we just finished Ahimsa Anuvrat,
Okay.
not Satyanuvrat.
So, okay. So I'm going to quiz you on this. Sankalpi Hinsa. What is it?
Intentional
violence. Yeah.
Intentional.
Intentional.
You're kidding, but you can't help it. Okay. Udyogi Hinsa.
Occupational.
The occupational violence.
Yeah.
Find the activities of business and household.
Right. So there, the only details I want you to understand is a lot of times us office workers, computer scientists, lawyers, accountants, we think, oh, we are free from all that hinsa. That's not the case. Okay, there's always bhav hinsa happening at workplace. You're hurting somebody's feelings, somebody's hurting your feelings. There are hinsa where there are occupations where you have to take people out. I mean, those are kind of, you can limit those. Some people do, some can't, where you have to take people out and they're eating non-vegetarian food or drinking alcohol. So wo aapko anumodna ka paap lagta hai. You're supporting that hinsa. But again, like some people, my husband practices where if he takes someone out, he will let them know, I'm not going to pay for your meat or alcohol. Even to the point where for our son's wedding, if he wanted to have alcohol, we told him we're not going to pay for it. So, you can limit it that way, at least for yourself. Then, so those are the kind of hidden hinsa that every profession sort of has. Okay, now obviously agriculture and building construction work or some of those occupations, it's kind of very visible. That's why in the old times, Jains did not do selling liquor, hotel business. They were usually, Jains did not do those.
Farming also?
Farming, usually, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, only because others are able to do it. If it was only Jain community, nothing else, then they would, because of course you need to eat too for sustenance. So it's not like completely they shouldn't do is not the point. The point is Jains are more vigilant about hinsa. If they have a choice, they wouldn't do the occupations that require more hinsa. Okay.
Prabha, intentional violence is just a physical hinsa, like physical injury is
नहीं
caused
नहीं
to
मेंटल
someone else.
ऑल्सो मेंटल हम जानबूझ के किसी को कड़वे शब्द बोल देते हैं
Okay,
right don't we do that sometimes we
right.
know
जी,
it's going to hurt that person फिर भी हम
right.
कि तुम तो ऐसे ही हो तुमने ये किया वो whatever all that is intentional
Right. जी.
Prabha aunty, आपने जो example दिया आपके husband, जब I was in that situation many times. We have to take somebody out or something. So I always kept that from बचपन से that I will never pay for meat or alcohol. तो किसी को करना. So either we try to go take them to a vegan restaurant or something. We try to avoid that. But हमने वो हमेशा पहले clear किया. And same thing.
and it takes some courage. See, if you don't firmly believe in it it's
Yeah.
difficult to do you know why because
It's not
then
easy. It's not
think,
easy because
"Oh,
people
बेचारा,
judge
what
you.
will
People-
he think and that I'm not it's like I took him out and now I'm trying to decide for him what he should and shouldn't eat
Right,
it
right.
kind of gives that little uncomfortable feeling so it's not that easy to do but yeah
Mm.
so then Arambhi Hinsa, which we all pretty much have to do, except Muni Maharaj, right? That's why they take the Diksha. Then they are free from all these Hinsas. So, हमारी भूमिका में हमें करना पड़ता है. To live, we have to do dishes, wash clothes, cook, all those things have Hinsa उसमें होती है. Now, Virodhi Hinsa. Again, as much as possible, you don't want to hurt anybody but when it comes to in response to, then in our bhumika, we are not able to control. If somebody is hitting us, somebody is coming at us, then you would react.
But
So-
ये householder के लिए the ideal जैसे महावीर Swami was suffering from some people hitting him, right? वो जो all those things. तो वो तो बहुत advanced example है. तो householder के लिए like
no. See, wait, it depends what stage he was in. See, a lot of the stories we hear are when they were Muni वाले अवस्था में. तो मुनि वाले अवस्था is different. जैसे पार्श्वनाथ को भी वो संगम देव ने वो करा था महावीर भगवान को संगम देव ने उपसर्ग किए वो मुनि अवस्था में किए
okay.
उस अवस्था में तो यस दे विल टॉलरेट सेम थिंग पार्श्वनाथ को वो जो बहुत बरसात किया फिर स्नेक ने ऊपर किया वो सब उनकी मुनि अवस्था की बात है नॉट श्रावक टाइम
So मतलब but as a householder should we bear like at least some violence before reacting and defending?
The householder does not have enough strength to bear.
Hmm.
So he will think about मतलब अब नहीं शक्ति है तो सहन करना पड़ेगा वो अलग बात है. If something strong guy is coming at you, you know you cannot defeat him. So I mean that's different. Then you shouldn't try.
Hmm.
But whenever possible, yes, you should protect yourself or protect your child or loved one.
That's why it is called Anuruta, correct? It's Anuruti.
Yeah, that's why they're called Anuvrat, means partial vows. So Shravaks don't have such complete vows.
Prabhaji, last time also you said like if you don't have Samyak Darshan and these vows are just for practice, they don't have the full benefit?
That's correct. So unless you have Samyak Darshan, so for example, ye vow liye humne, right? So we stopped some karmas.
Right.
That's true. But in our bhumika, when we are still associating ourselves with this body, right? Samyak Drashti will not do that. As long as we are associating ourselves with this body, even though we are shedding or controlling some karmas, we are continuously with our bhav of mithyatva getting continuous flow of karmas. So the net result is not negative or zero or in that category. That is why they say कि real vrat to samyak drishti ke hote hain. But why should we practice? Well, of course there is benefit, even though the benefit is very little, relatively speaking to samyak drishti. Number two, as practice. As being good householders, plus when you're in practice, suppose you got Samyak Darshan. Now you're already having so many vows. So right away you're in the 5th Gunasthan. Versus if somebody got Samyak Darshan with no vows, then they start taking vows, which is also happens. No, nothing wrong
Mhm.
with that. Okay. And some of the vrats are really like, for example, a prerequisite to even get samyak darshan, right, is ethical living.
Mm.
Cannot be unethical and expect that you'll get samyak darshan. That usually won't happen, right? So, वैसे ही, like you have to be mandakashai to even want to know this knowledge or want to imbibe this knowledge. I mean, you could, if you're a very tivra kashai, you wouldn't even get desire to know any of this or associate with this, right? So there are some prerequisites. So same way, these vrat also help you in mellowing down your passions.
Mm.
So you kind of starting to learn this self-control in little bit like that. So that's what this is all about. And Shuddhatma to me is ultimate freedom, where you are not dependent on anything for your happiness. And you can practice that little by little right now. You don't have to reach the ultimate to know this. So what I want to see is that, yes, ultimately we are learning all this to be within our soul, which is unconditionally happy, eternally happy. Yet, can I, in the process, also feel this feeling of independence? So let's say you desired ice cream a lot. बहुत पसंद है, right?
Mhm.
Now, suddenly one fine day, just out of nowhere, you don't desire ice cream anymore. I don't know if you guys have ever tried this, but I have had several items where I used to just like it so much. कि India जाएंगे तो ये तो खाना ही खाना है and this and that. And then suddenly one fine day, I'm not too crazy about it anymore. And that was a very good feeling. Oh wow, I don't have to depend on it anymore.
Mm.
Or the feeling of I can drink tea, yet I'm not addicted to it. तो समझो कहीं गए flight में, whatever reason I couldn't get my caffeine, right? And I'm not getting a headache. I'm not getting this. Some people feel they cannot focus well if they don't get their caffeine. All kinds of whatever. So that's a good feeling that I'm not dependent on anything. And I want you guys to kind of feel that feeling, so that even this little bit of independence feels so good. So imagine having no dependence at all for my happiness. How great would that feel? And in life, yeah, slowly, slowly. So this is like also a psychology thing, right? So in the process, you want to learn that really nobody can take control of your emotions. You don't want to be disturbed, you won't be disturbed. Because you're learning कि एक द्रव्य दूसरे द्रव्य का कुछ नहीं कर सकता. That means somebody telling you something bad, you think they are hurting you. They are not. So that understanding should automatically bring your moods in a level where, or at least slowly, slowly. In the past, let's say it didn't take much for the other person to trigger your anger. Slowly, slowly, it'll take then a lot more to trigger your anger. Because now you have that consciousness, that awareness. Okay. So Virodhi Hinsa ho gaya. Now again, where you limit this is within your immediate, of course, for your body, you have to protect your body, your family, your dharmayatan. But now let's say you are not in a municipality ka chief mayor nahi hua. Then it is not your business to order insect killers for the whole town. If you happen to be in that position, yes, then it's your duty. So you don't have a choice. But when you're not in that position, advising others to, oh, तुम्हारे घर में cockroach है, ये spray कर दो. No need to do that, because you are going to bear the fruits of that suggestion. Okay. Now, if you were to advise something non-killing, oh no, spread this haldi or spread something, which is, it won't kill them, but just deter them, then it is okay. So those are the little things that you become aware of, that I don't want to unnecessarily preach hinsa, do it myself, or get someone else to do it, or somebody else did something and appreciate it.
But sometimes you have to live, you will have to do something, right?
But that's what I said. For your own self, yes, you must. For your own health, yes, you have to do what you have to do. For your family, you will have to do, because that's your duty. That's your current paryay, right? So you have to do those things, duties. But कई बार हम आलतू फालतू सारी दुनिया को भी करते रहते हैं, which is not needed. You can save yourself from that. Because once you realize that whatever that pap you do, the person you suggested to is not going to suffer that result of it. It's going to be you.
Now, nowadays, I mean, I said, lot of us, we do post travel pictures on Facebook and all that, right? So, wherever, maybe I went to Iceland and then I post my pictures and then 50 other people watches it. And maybe 10 actually make a trip. Ki, I'll go to Iceland. So, usme bhi kuch hame lagta hai.
Yeah, I've had that before where, I mean, recently somehow automatically come ho gaya hai. But before I used to post, and a lot of my friends used to appreciate that after looking at your pictures on Facebook, we felt like going. And then I wondered, I don't know if that's a good thing. But again, yes, I mean, something to think about. But again, you don't have to force yourself to completely stop life. So in the Bhumika, we are, again, we are being nimit, that is true. Yet 50 ने देखा, उसमें से सिर्फ 10 का मन हुआ. क्यों? उनमें इस तरह का राग था, इसलिए वो गए. There are others who either couldn't afford it or don't care to travel, so they didn't go.
But हमारे लिए basic point is you mind your own business and don't give unsolicited advice to others.
Unsolicited help नहीं. अब कोई पूछेगा कि मैं ऑस्ट्रेलिया जा रहा हूँ तो क्या क्या देखूं, then fine,
Right.
you're still in that bhumika where, yeah, you would do whatever the norm is. But in general, people have an attitude of unsolicited help. That you can avoid.
Or create desires among other people, which,
But you have to take that with a grain of salt. You really cannot create desires. Desire is their own problem.
Right, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, because we are not going out there to say, do this or do that. Right? Okay. So just like I give that example of a movie poster, you and I see a big poster, it's some hero that we like, we might say, oh, I think I should go watch that movie. Same thing, a sadhu walking on the same road, he has no reaction, he doesn't care. So it's our rag that makes us do that. Okay, let's read Satyanuvrat and ek karke bari by bari pad lo. Dinesh Burarji, you start with Satyanuvrat. Then Viraj, you didn't do the Acharya Vrat. Then Amitji, you do the Brahmacharya. Then Bahubali-ji, Parigrah, Pariman. Then Nidhi-ji, you read the Gun Vrat. Then Arun-ji, you read half of the Siksha Vrat. And then Dipali can read the rest. Okay, go ahead.
Satyanuvrat. Partial observance of truth, uttering untrue words due to negligence is falsehood. Partial abstinence from telling lies constitutes Satyanuvrat. Untruths are of 4 kinds. Satyanuvrat, partial observance. Oh, that's just repeated. I think.
That's a mistake. I'm noting it down, Prabhaji.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
I talked to Varshaji about it. So this is quite a tedious process. She has to take something and copy paste into something. So that's what can happen. So it's good we are helping her out with those kind of little helps. Okay, go
So
ahead.
untruth are of four kinds. Sat ka apalapa,
Apalap. Mhm.
apalap,
Sapalap,
sat
yes.
ka apalap,
Mhm.
concealing the truth. Calling the
Mhm.
existing as non-existing, it is sat ka apalap.
Mhm.
Asat ka udbhavan,
Udbhav.
udbhavan, propounding untruth.
Mhm.
Calling the non-existing as existing is asat ka udbhavan.
Mhm.
Anyatha,
Anyatha parupan.
anyatha parupan, distortion or telling otherwise. To
Mhm.
say something different from what it is. That is, to present something contrary to its true nature in anyath parupana. For example, saying violence as righteousness. And grahit vachana, harsh and cruel speech, harsh and cruel speech. To utter words such as those that are condemning, inciting conflict, inflicting pain, contradicting scriptures, fostering violence, promoting hostility, etc., are termed as grahit vachan.
Okay, so in this one, they did not give the Hindi words, or did they?
No, they have not given the Hindi words.
Okay, I'll have to check. See, what happens is that we're trying to translate these and we're trying to minimize the diacritic words. But my concern is, what if they give you an exam that kalakarak, these words, what are they under? Then you wouldn't know. So let me check with them how that'll work. Okay. Anyway, so
So, Prabhaji, when you're saying that they have given the Satka Apala, right? So they have given that, but in English,
तो
uh,
निंदनीय कलह कारक पीड़ा कारक उसका सिर्फ इंग्लिश दिया है, which may be fine. I mean, ideally we didn't want to overdo on the diacritic words because it becomes very difficult to read when you put so many
okay, good.
words. So we're trying to balance, yet we are translating these books, syllabus books for a course where the exams are originally made in Hindi, from Hindi books, like the fill in the blanks. They cannot possibly make separate exams for each language. So they're going to make it from one Hindi book and then they're going to be translated in English. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully we'll try to avoid those problems. Anyway, so now Satyanuvrat mein pramad ke yog se. So every time the word pramad comes in the ultimate form, it means that and not being with your soul. Okay. So because you're not focused on your soul, you're focused on the outwardly world, that you are not speaking the truth. And Shravak iska ek desh tyag is Satyanuvrat. So partial vow of telling the truth is Satyanuvrat. Now, how many types of untruths are there? Satya ka apala. That means something that is there and you say it's not there. Right? So give me an example if somebody can think of something. There's several. One of the common ones, you don't want to talk to that person for whatever reason, you don't have time. You'll tell the child to pick up the phone and say, oh, dad is not home. Or somebody wants to borrow something and you don't want to look for it. So you may say, I don't have it, when you know you have that item. Okay. So that's all Satyakapla.
Or gossiping is also.
No, because this is like something that exists and you're saying it does not exist at the moment.
Auntie,
It could also
not
be existing.
So when you
Sorry.
say gossiping, are you saying that they are not such and you're presenting them in a wrong way. Is that what you meant, Bahubali?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I guess you can call that. Yes. Yeah,
Is
sometimes
it
you're misrepresenting somebody.
Yeah.
That's- Yes.
so it is
So-
going to be Anitha Parupana? Exaggerating.
That will be Satya ka apla.
Okay.
Now, Anyatha Parupana is
sorry, before you go there.
that is
Sorry.
one example they have given. So, you know, कोई चीज मिथ्या दर्शन है पर उसको बोलना नहीं, ये तो ऐसा ही है वस्तु स्वरूप गलत बता देना. Something that is a certain way and you explain it in the wrong way. Suppose somebody asks you a recipe. Now you really don't know it, but you don't want to confide that I don't know the recipe. You know, suppose maybe somebody else made it and you told them that I made it. So now they want a recipe. So what would you do? Just make up something and tell them the recipe. It's other than what it is actually.
और आजकल यूएस में तो बहुत हो रहा है alternative facts. So
Google. So everybody, whatever is.
sorry, before we go on to the next one, so ये जो सत का अपलाप है, I just have one slight उसमें थोड़ा little more sophisticated understanding. So Western philosophy, there's one famous philosopher called Immanuel Kant, and he gives a very famous example. वो हमेशा बोलते हैं कि there's something called categorical imperative. मतलब जो करना है वो करना ही. If you tell the truth, you always tell the truth no matter what happens, right? So he gives an example कि कोई आ रहा है, he's a murderer coming, and he's saying, where did that person go? He wants to go and murder somebody, right? And you know where that person has gone. What do you do in that circumstance? आपको पता है कि अगर आप बोलेंगे कि ये वहां पे गए तो वो जाके उसका खून करेगा. Now, ultimately, one dravya cannot affect another dravya. वो सब पता है, because you know it's not anyone's business, right? What happens there? So my guess is, according to Jainism, you would just be silent. You would not say anything.
In Muniraj Bhumika, yes, that is true. Okay, in Muniraj Bhumika, definitely you will be silent. You have nothing to do with, you don't want to be a reason for somebody's hinsa. Now, in our Bhumika, it depends. Okay, because we will have that discretion power where if you think that murderer needed to be caught and you could prevent another hinsa, then you use your brain and say, yes, that person went there. So your intent is that somebody else doesn't get murdered, plus that murderer gets caught. Now it's the reverse. Okay, there is a story about this, of a Muniraj. What happens is he goes to grocery, किसी के घर में लेने गए, or they had some grains of gold. This bird comes down in front of Muniraj and picks those grains, thinking it's rice, and it swallows and flies away. Now that bird is sitting up there somewhere on the tree, he can see it. Now the householder comes and says, oh, I had these gold grains, and where did they go? Nobody else is here. It's only you, Muniraj. So you must have taken them. Now that would be a very good example of he should tell the truth, that I didn't take it, that bird picked it and flew away. But Muniraj stays silent. Because if he says the truth, they will shoot the bird to get their grains.
But cannot Muniraj just say, I did not take it, and stop there, and don't say the bird took it?
They won't believe it.
No, it's okay. But his
Still
duty is
logic,
just
right? Nobody else is there. They've already established that.
Yeah.
So in that situation, he doesn't want to lie, right? Yet he doesn't want to tell the truth. So then the only choice is being silent. Now, in our situation, we can sometimes lie, depending on what the end result is. Sometimes not tell the truth, again, depending on the situation. And further on in the course, when we study more details about Satya, whatever, we'll get to those details.
So in this case, if it's a Muni, Raj, now let's say if whatever time it is, they call either the soldiers or the police, and the Muniraj will be behind the bars, and because he had stolen, उस पे आरोप लगाया है कि आपने ये चोरी किए सोने के दाने, right? तो मुनिराज ये सोच के चुप बैठ जाएंगे वहां पे कि ये तो मेरे मतलब मेरे कुछ तो पूर्व जन्म के कुछ बुरे कर्म है जो आज मतलब उदय हो रहे हैं, राइट?
नहीं, मुनिराज की भूमिका में तो वो कर्मों को भी दोष नहीं देंगे. This is it. This is the situation. That's it. They don't go much further. I'm not any of this. I'm not the person who didn't tell the truth. I'm not the, I mean, he has no association with the outside world. He's only concerned with himself, with his own soul. So to him, it is kind of like mute point.
Yeah. He doesn't care.
So he doesn't care if he's thrown in the jail.
It's fine. He doesn't care. And that's why Muniraj has Parishajay.
Prabha, I think what we are talking about is Anyat
But
Prarupan.
here we are talking about Shravak, right? We are not talking about Muniraj. This is Anuvrat. We are talking about partial vows. Now we can take a vow that if something is there and telling somebody, no, it's not there, we won't do that. Or the other way around. Asat ka udbhavan. If something doesn't exist, then you say it is there. Right? So, कुछ का कुछ कहना अर्थात वस्तु स्वरूप जैसा है वैसा न कहकर अन्यथा कहना. So again, that's another type of lie. You kind of change the facts and say. And then the last one is pretty simple. Nindaniya, kalakarak, pidakarak, shastra, hinsa, poshak, parpara. So even though you have those English words, but basically to talk bad of others. Kalakarak is something husband-wife do all the time, whatever that English word is. What was that English word you read for the second one, Dinesh Burarji? That last sentence of the Satyanugat.
Garhir Vachan.
He has the book open, right?
Grahit Vachan.
Garhit
No,
Vachan?
No. The last sentence of explaining the Garhit Vachan.
Oh,
Yes.
those that are condemning, inflicting conflict.
Nindaniya is condemning. Kalakarak is what? Inflicting
Conflict.
So,
Yeah,
inflicting.
conflict kahan hota hai? With same people living together, right? Okay. And then hurting words.
Inflicting pain is the next one.
Right. That is hurtful words, inflicting pain through words or, physical. And then Shastra Viruddh is something that this is not in the truth in the Shastra and saying opposite of it. Now, if it happens by mistakes, that's different. But sometimes knowingly, if you say something that is Viruddh of Shastra, that is, again, Garhit Vachan. And Hinsa Poshan, something that can be reason for somebody's Hinsa and talking bad of others. All this comes in the Garhit Vachan type of untruth.
So isme aayega gossiping, those kind of things.
All that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That par apvad karak. So talking about others is gossiping or telling on people, all that comes in there.
Telling
Yeah.
on somebody has done something wrong, like you even snitching on somebody. So somebody has done something and you say, no, that person did it. Like when you say telling on somebody, wo bhi Garhit Vachan mein aata hai?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, these are very applicable to kids, right? During Paryushan, we give them vows like this. Okay, for today you have a vow of not telling on your brother or not telling on your sister. So this, and that's good because the little kids kind of understand that, oh, yeah, this is not a good thing to do.
Prabhaji, I just want to go back to example Dinesh gave and just want to clarify. जैसे उन्होंने बोला कि वो मर्डरर है, आपसे आके पूछता है कि वो आदमी किधर गया, right? Supposing he has gone to the right, you'd say, okay, no, he has gone left. So what kind of asatya is that?
Well, in this situation, it's going to be two different ways you have to think about it. One is you save the murderer's life if they were going to shoot him, right? By saying the wrong thing, right? Now, but still it is asat. तो ये कौन सा असत हुआ बताओ?
मेरे ख्याल से तीसरी तरह का हुआ अन्यत
हाँ, अन्यथा परूपण कर दिया, वो गया
Right.
राइट में और आपने लेफ्ट बता दिया.
Yeah. So I mean, I initially understood it to be sat ka aplap, but I don't think it's that, because in that
No,
they say
it will be the third
if
one.
something exists and you say it does not exist,
Yeah.
then it is and falls under that category. So
Exactly.
something like saying climate change does not exist would
Ah,
be satyam ka aplap, right?
exactly, that would be right. So, but even this, when we study further, they will tell you that if the truth hurts somebody, then also it's called untruth. So that time you need to be quiet. Okay? A lot of us use that, right? किसी की कुछ बुरी बात मैं सच तो बोल रहा हूँ, पर बुरी बात जो किसी को hurt कर रही है वो सच नहीं होता.
There is one very famous in Hinduism that you say कि any speech should be satyam, hitam, priyam. अगर सत्यम, हितम और प्रियम नहीं है, तो you just remain silent.
Yes.
Very beautiful way of thinking before you open your mouth for anything.
Yeah, I think it also comes in our Shastra, same, you know.
Okay.
Okay.
But also the Hinduism, they celebrate this sage Narada.
Oh, yeah. Narad Vacha, whatever it is. Yeah.
He's inciting conflict all the time.
That is true. But see, again, Narad is not a Samyak Drashti, or he's not
Yeah, correct. But
so
yeah.
he's just any average being,
He's a
right?
deity. He's a
All
Their
that.
concept of Samyak Drashti is different. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Prabhaji,
So,
just one question.
yes.
Ji, Grahit Vachan isn't much similar like Ahimsa.
Not Grahit, it's Garhit. Garhit. It's a different word than the Grahit Mithyatva we learned about.
So Garhit Vachan isn't much similar to Hinsa.
Yeah, like see, they're all intermingled. All of these 5 vows, everything can be put into Hinsa also. So they're all interconnected. See, as soon as you hurt someone, you आपने verbal हिंसा तो कर ही दी ना, तो you're right. तो दो इस तरह के words अगर बोलोगे आप कलाकारक निंदा वाले पीड़ा वाले, you're also doing हिंसा.
It looks like Garhit is causing more pain than it says. Like,
Yes.
Yeah, it's more pain.
Anything hurtful.
Yeah.
Saying hurtful things. And Shastra Virud, opposite of Shastra, or something that inflicts hinsa, violence, right? Abhi jaise, even like a sibling telling or the other sibling, he knows कि माँ से पिटाई मिलने वाली है, पर उसकी चुगली करेगा, तो वो हिंसा पोषक भी हुआ. ठीक है, चलो आचार्य व्रत. Now, so the point is here is why we are learning this. हम ये छोटे छोटे अणुव्रत ले सकते हैं कि हम इस तरह का सत्य नहीं बोलेंगे. Again, any of this is not to stress ourselves, but more to be more aware of it. If you know कि मैं बिना सोचे समझे, like kind of I behave this way, then you can say, okay, today for half a day I'm not going to do this. So then you're like a little more aware. Okay.
Okay.
Now, Acharya no.
Acharya no Vrata. In the realm of transactions involving goods, taking such items without the owner's permission due to negligence amounts to theft. The partial abstinence of non-stealing is Acharya no Vrata. For example, in spite of the vow, the householder draws water from a well or river and earth from mines without asking. So because of the partial renunciation of vows of non-stealing, it's called Acharya no Vrata. partial observing of non-stealing.
Mhm. So those are examples where we really don't do those things. I mean, we don't go out to the mines or, get stuff. But yes, I mean, if there is open space, there's money on the ground, you pick it up, that's all chori. Even though a lot of people don't think it is chori, finders, keepers, that doesn't justify it. So again, in terms of being aware, here we are a little more open about it. Like, let's say if somebody comes to my house, they can open my pantry, grab snacks, eat whatever they want to. We don't mind, right? But in India, that's not the case. You don't just go to people's homes and just pick things, right? You ask. So some of it is culture. And I had an incident where somebody pretty close, they were at our house, and as they were leaving, of course, I told them, take whatever to pack for on the road. So she was grabbing whatever the kids would need, crackers, chips, whatever. And my mother-in-law goes, she's just taking things without even asking. Like, so because my mother-in-law had learned all these vrat and everything, so to her it was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
So
Prabhandi, just to extend this again, so Acharya, I mean, the simple thing is very straightforward. But let's say you're buying stock in a mining company because you're going to do really well, make a lot of money from it. So that will also be breaking about Chorya Anuvrat, right? I mean, it will also causing himsa.
Oh,
I
yes.
mean, knowingly you are investing in something that
Annapurna kind of vrat, exactly. So for example, like how kids here sometimes they're very particular about it. My son, like, he wouldn't, even if he could afford to buy a big diamond for his fiance, he wouldn't, because it's blood diamond. It's with violence to these poor people who are working in the mines and whatever. So yeah, the kids actually do think very far in that sense.
I mean, there's a whole thing now of ethical investing, right? You can buy funds and stocks that so they try to minimize. Nothing will be perfect because but
Be perfect, but you do to the best of your knowledge. That's the whole point of it. Yes. So yeah, I mean, I know my kids have always practiced that because they went through this Pathshala thing. So to them, if they're investing, they will watch out for those things, that they won't invest in those kinds of businesses.
But right now, the most popular thing is to just buy the whole index. So log abhi index buy karte hain. That means you're buying every company in the stock market.
Yes.
You are buying meat companies. You're buying weapons company. You're buying everything, right? And you're hoping to profit from it.
Exactly. So yeah, if for ease, if we are doing that, then we should be mindful that that's what's happening. Yes. Yeah, a lot of people just do it for easy. तो बहुत ज़्यादा दिमाग नहीं लगाना पड़ता है, इतने सारे सोचो, इसकी जगह चलो एक इंडेक्स में लगा दो. तो that's true. Yes. Okay. Brahmacharya Anuvrat.
Brahmacharya Anuvrat, partial abstinence from indulging in sex. The complete abstinence from sexual relations is known as the vow of celibacy, Brahmacharya Avrat. Householder unable to observe complete celibacy remains satisfied with own spouse and completely renounces the desire of engaging with another. As this vow is observed partially, it is referred to as a partial vow of celibacy, Brahmacharya Anuvrat.
Okay, so that's pretty straightforward.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it's
Cannot
missing
practice
it's
then
missing a
you-
line on the A there, Amitji. Brahmacharya Anuvrat, it should be, right? The second one to third A line.
line should
Oh.
not be.
So it should be Brahma. Is it Brahmacharya?
Yeah, not chari.
So Brahmacharya, not Brahmacharya. Okay.
Oh, it's Brahmacharya. Okay, Brahmacharya.
Brahmacharya, so that's
It is correct.
correct.
It
Yes.
is correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say in Hindi
and
it is Brahmacharya.
if any of you do the pratikraman in Hindi or English during Paryushan?
Yeah.
Do any
Yes.
of you do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So now that you're studying this, pay more close attention to it. All these things come in the Pratikraman.
Yeah.
Okay. And they, especially the Paryushan one and the Chaudas Pratikraman, explains all these in detail. And then it says that I take this vow, or if I have not taken this vow, I ask for forgiveness. Or if I have taken vow and have not been able to fulfill it, then I ask for forgiveness. So you study all, you read all this in Pratikraman. So that's why those rituals are made for a reason, to kind of remind you of a lot of these things, at least
Yeah.
once, hopefully, and as often as you can.
प्रभा जी हमारा सूत्र है अतिचार, उसमें ये सब आता है।
Exactly.
श्रावक
तो अतिचार में, चाहे वो स्थानकवासी का हो या मूर्ति पूजक परंपरा का हो, अतिचार में ये सब देखो, स्थान मूर्ति पूजक में नहीं आता है। दे हैव अ वंदितु थिंग व्हिच इज इन संस्कृत, व्हिच नोबडी अंडरस्टैंड्स।
नहीं, अतिचार वंदितु का ये एक्सटेंडेड सूत्र है अतिचार,
हाँ,
श्वेतांबर में
but
है।
they do that only like certain times, like चौदस वाले,
जी जी,
every
14 को।
in Sthanakvasi, they do that every day wale Pratikraman mein bhi, and they read in whatever language. I mean, if people are Rajasthani, it will be in their language. Gujaratis will have it in their, and Hindi wale will have it in their language. And you have a Pratikraman in English, where we put all this in English here. So.
तो ये अनुव्रत में तो लिखा है कि remain satisfied with own spouse, and I know it's straightforward here,
Yeah.
but again, there's much more to it, right? Because
there's much more. That's why I'm pointing to this English Pratikraman, which talks about extramarital, premarital, all those details it gives.
But not even that, even with spouse, right? There is some concept of limiting the amount of sexual activity.
Yes.
Like, for example, and even like, for example, using birth control, if you're doing that, then the sexual activity is only for pleasure, right?
Yes.
So there's all those things come into consideration, Ismail.
Well, and also those activities are not just limited that you can do, like, with another person physically, but then also bhavana
Mental.
and mental is also an important
like watching
thing, right?
movies and things like that,
Yeah.
all those kind of.
And that Pratikraman, I think it states all of those things.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, watching those.
स्त्री का गमन किया हो, करने वाले का अनुमोदन किया हो. Yeah.
And I think Shanti made that one. He put together different pratikramans from different sects and put it all together. I think it was good for children to read that. So at least we have informed the children. We have done our job. As they grow older, at least it's with them.
Yeah.
So, okay. So parigraha parimana.
I'll read the next one.
Sure.
Parigraha parimana ruta, vow of limiting possessions, attachments, mamatva buddhi toward external objects other than the self is called possessiveness, parigraha. This is of two types, internal, antaranga, and external, bahiranga. The internal possessions include the 14 defilements: wrong belief, anger, pride, deceit, greed, and the 9 forms of quasi-passions, such as laughter. I think this is Mithyatva Kashaya and Nav Kashaya, I believe. The external possessions include possessions like land, houses, gold, silver, money, food grains, servants, utensils, and other material goods. A householder in this vow fully renounces false belief, Mithyatva, which is considered the subtlest and most dangerous form of internal attachment. The partially renounces the remaining internal attachment due to the continued presence of passions. This vow defines a limit, parimana, on external possessions, consciously restricting the quantity and the types of materials he will acquire or keep. This vow is called vow of limiting possessions, parigraha parimana ruta, as it involves setting a boundary on possessiveness.
Okay. So again, even though it talks about limiting things and all that, that's fine. One should try, but the key point is the attachment towards things, right? So that is Bahirang Parigraha, right? Bahirang Parigraha about all the material things we can have. Now, there is a difference between having things and attachment to things, right? So one is greediness of having. You know, a lot of people, as you earn more money, you desire more. Now I have more money, I need big house. Now I have more money, I need more furniture. Now I have more money, I can change my furniture every 2 years. I mean, there's just no end of desire, okay? That kind of comes with this ego attachment type of thing. Then attachment towards your mithyatva, krodh, man, maya, lobh, hasya, all those no kashai also. That is the internal parigraha. See, even that is under parigraha. You're attached to all those wrong things also. So you don't want to give up. Now, the outside attachment, you can limit how much land you will own, how many houses, how many gold, silver, wealth in general. One thing they say, you should never put a limit on currency because currency value changes all the time. So when you take a vow, be mindful of those things. Then, of course, how much help, bartan. Now, taking these vows were only important to the sense that it makes you feel less attached. Because what happens is, let's say you've decided I'm only going to have one house. Now, you increased your wealth, right? So now that you've taken a vow, you're not going to have a desire to have multiple houses anymore. So it kind of limits you there. At the same time, you must be mindful that your circumstances can change. You may need to have, like, there used to be people in the old times, they think back in the days, 1 lakh rupee was a huge deal. So let's say 50 years ago, somebody took a vow, I don't want to have more than 1 lakh rupee. In today's times, it's nothing. So one has to be mindful, or you don't take lifelong, because lifelong vow, if you can follow it, that's great. If not, then you take 1 year, 1 month, 1 week, whatever, as much as you can follow. And then the key thing is the attachment towards it. Okay. So, for example, I notice my son, older one, you can ask him anything and he'll readily give it to you. He just doesn't have that. Naturally, that's just the way he is, attachment to his possessions, right? There are people who may have a lot, but they cannot let go. So there's this story about this king and a Muni Maharaj. So Maharaj Sahib goes to the king or some rich guy, some sage, whatever, to their house. And now they both came out of the house, just discussing religion and wo ghumne gaye. The Muni Maharaj just for a second turns back and sees that his house is burning. His palatial looking house, beautiful house, and it somehow caught on fire. So he draws the attention of this sage that, oh, your house is burning. He's, okay, and keeps going and still talking. And after a few more minutes, then again the sadhu goes, oh, your house is burning. He goes, yeah, it's okay. Then the third time again he says, yeah, I got it. If the house is burning, I have people who are supposed to take care of the matter. I mean, whatever they can do to put out the flames, whatever, it'll happen. But then the Muni Maharaj says, but my Pichi Kamandal is there too. So you see, Muni Raj has no possessions, but whatever little they have, they're attached to it. Whereas this guy, he had so much wealth, yet he could care less, even if it all got burnt. That's okay. He didn't have much attachment to it. So that is the difference. So just having fewer possessions is not a parigraha. It should be both. Ek tarah se, of course, and that doesn't mean you just go out and have too much and say, oh, I don't have attachment. No. That's You have to test yourself. Do you really don't have attachment towards things? But a lot of people, because of Punya Uday, somehow the circumstances are such that you get a lot of stuff. But if you're not attached to it, then it can still be in the category of aparigraha. But just because you have wealth, to have this desire of more and more and more accumulation is the parigraha vritti, right? Suppose you earn money, right? Now you know you've earned $6-7 million, and now you know that between you and your wife or whatever, you cannot possibly spend that much money in your lifetime. In your average modest lifestyle, let's say you take vacations, you do whatever, right? But yet you want to keep on earning more and more and more. That is parigraha. Bharilji used to tell a story. This was a true story about some industrialist. This guy had factories, so he had 5 factories, then 6 factories, and then 7th factory. And then he comes home and tells his wife, I'm going to go there and have 2 more factories. So the wife tells him, now at least stop, narak bhi saath hi hote hain. तो उससे ज्यादा कितना करोगे? So this desire of having more, so it's like a passion, right? He knows, I'm sure he's smart enough to know that he doesn't need this money or cannot possibly spend that money. But then it's just that junoon, passion, whatever you want to call it.
That example is a good one, but like that person, see, I know people like that who, it's not the money that they want more of. They enjoy that process of making money. Like they enjoy the business, they enjoy the challenge. So it's not about wanting more money, but unko dusra kuch aata hi nahi hai. It's like that's what they're good at. So they like doing that every day, right? So is it the same thing? Is that
he has a venture fund. So that is his business, to make money for others every day. But does that justify? Not really.
But that's what here it says,
That
correct?
is because you are not thinking of anything else. If you were thinking of your soul, what the result of what you're doing is going to be, then it would make you think deeper. Is it worth it? That passion just keep making.
The only point is that it's not necessarily motivated by greed. I agree, it's not a good sentiment to have nothing else to do but make money. But wo greed ke wajah se
you could be doing soul searching, but you're not even open to that because you're so busy doing this. You see?
Prabha ji, mithya charitra ho gaya.
In the
bilkul mithya charitra ho gaya.
In the Naukashaya, that is Rati Arati. That's why Rati is what want. What Dinesh is saying correctly. Like he's passionate about
right,
that.
something you
Rati, that's
don't
Rati.
like. You just like to do that, so you'll do that.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, that's good, yeah.
So I like to give this example of so Swanubhuti, who is Gopalji's granddaughter. She was just like us, normal professional person. And so since she was kind of raised in this atmosphere of Swadhyaya and all that, but still she did what all normal people do. She did various jobs, different positions, whatever. And now that she's 40 and above, she has just decided that if she has enough money, she must give up the career and focus on this. Because this is going to be more helpful to her for her soul at the end of the day. Just accumulating more money is not really going to get her anywhere. So she has chosen to give up her career. I mean, she still does, I forget what it is called. Whatever, she's still somewhat working partial, but pretty much given up her career to do this type of work. And there's nothing wrong with it. One cannot appreciate that until they understand the importance of the human life and the fact that this kind of thing you can only do in human life. Suppose today you die and you're in an animal life or in any other, you won't be able to get this knowledge. You can get Samyak Darshan in all Chargati, Tiryanch, Devta, Narki, but you won't be able to get this education anywhere else. Or the ability to take charitra anywhere else other than human life. And if we waste it in just making money, which is like pointless, useless, more than what we need to survive, we are totally wasting our lives. And a lot of us end up being in that boat where you're dying with all this wealth that you don't know what to do with. Even your kids don't need it. And then you're worrying about where should I donate? What should I do with money? That's another akulta, another stress. So something to ponder upon. Okay.
Gunvrat. Married?
Yeah,
Gunvrat. Big Vrat, direction abstinence. Deshvrat, regional abstinence. Anarth Dandavrat, abstinence from unnecessary demerits, are called three gun vrat. Big vrat, directional abstinence. When the intensity of passions decreases, householder imposes limitations on his movements within the boundaries of known places in all the 10 directions and adheres to these boundaries for his entire life. This is known as directional abstinence. Wow, big vrat. Deshvrat, regional abstinence vow. This vow involves further narrowing the broad boundaries of movement established by Digvrat. The movements are further restricted by time, duration, days, weeks, months, etc. This is known as Deshvrat. Anartha Dandavrat, abstinence from unnecessary demerits, engaging in purposeless sinful activities such as violence or even thinking about such actions is termed anartha danda. Renouncing these actions is known as abstinence from unnecessary demerits. Anartha dandavrat. The householder observing these rules of conduct abstains from unnecessary activities like digging the ground, spilling water, burning fires, circulating air, or cutting vegetation. They not only avoid harm to mobile living beings, but also avoid unnecessary harm to immobile living beings. Additionally, they refrain from actions motivated by attachment and aversion and remain detached. This vow of abstinence from unnecessary demerits is Anartha Dandavrat.
Okay. Now, this is again, see, all these vrat are supposed to help you with, again, having the sense of I can do without. Okay. So let's say, and the other reason why one should take vows is because until you limit yourself, you are getting pap of everything that is out there. Okay. So let's say you are not going to travel to another continent for at least a month. And you might as well take the vow. Now you can keep exceptions, like if there is an emergency, somebody's sick, whatever you think, that can come up that you don't know of, you can keep exceptions. But it's a good habit to keep some vows. So for example, a long time ago, somebody had come to our house and that was her topic to explain about all these vows and all. So in general, Shravak is supposed to take these 12 vows. So she asked me if I would like to take those, and I said, fine. So we took in a very, very broad way. For example, I said, I won't go to India more than 3 times. Or if there's an unnatural situation, like of my own will, I will only go 3 times. I mean, even though normally I used to go only once a year in those days. So I still kept it a little more, right? Now today, if there is, let's say, a death in the family or something, so I kept that exception, that if something like that arises, then I'm allowed, right? Or same thing, that you're not going to go to that continent this year. You can have a vow for that. Now, these days, I mean, in the old days, people didn't travel that much. So it was easy to take a vow of the whole life, right? Now that is kind of difficult, but you can take it for a year, for 2 years, or 1 month, 1 week, whatever you can. So that sort of kind of limits your passion. Well, now I've taken a vow, this month I'm not going out of the country. So I know I'm going to stay put.
Ramanti, I have a little bit of an issue with that because I heard my whole life, मैंने सुना कि जैन लोग ये ऐसे व्रत लेते हैं, right? But what is the use if it's not a realistic thing? Like I can say, okay, next 10 years I'm not going to go to Antarctica, right? And I have no intention of going to Antarctica, right? So, I mean, shouldn't
so any pop related to going Antarctica, you have stopped. Now, also you can be tested. There might be some occasion where everybody, your friends are going and they'll say, oh, let's go, Dinesh. Well, then you would say, sorry, I've taken a vow for 10 years. I'm not going.
नहीं, but जैसे
There's a purpose to it.
But
most likely you won't go anyways, and that's fine. But then you have decided, put that block there.
But जैसे आपने बोला, you said I will not go to India more than 3 times under normal circumstances, exam में. And normally you only went 1 time anyways, right? And आपने already exempt किया था कि अगर कुछ unnatural हुआ, death in the family, so that's exempted. So again, I'm just wondering.
But now let's say I have enough money that I could even go every month. But I won't feel like doing that. See, now that I have the vow, I'm not going to say, oh, now it's not a big deal. I can spend the money. I can go every month. But now that vow will not come to me.
I think also.
And also, Prabhaji, like if you make a wrong vow, unnecessary vow, you will be breaking the Anuratas also.
Right. So it just makes you a little more aware. That's all.
Also, when you take small vrats, I think this is also conditioning you for taking bigger vrats.
Right. Exactly. Don't take lifelong, first of all, because you don't know your circumstances could change. So if you want to not be, maybe you could be vulnerable. So then don't take lifelong vows.
अभी जैसे इंडिया में मेरे फैमिली में where I grew up, like मेरे सारे मम्मी आंटी और मामी सब लोग 14 नियम लेते हैं, रोज लेते हैं, right? कि मैं उनको पता है अभी आज मैं 60 किलोमीटर से ऊपर नहीं जाने वाली हूँ, right? So they will take that vow कि मैं आज महाविगय नहीं लूंगी या फिर ये 3 ही महाविगय खाऊंगी, right? So ऐसे पूरे नियम वो सुबह ही उठते साथ ले लेते हैं और फिर उनको पता है कि आज अगर
काफी passions mild होते हैं. My sister-in-law used to do that all the time. So one time what happened was she came and she was used to doing this. Like, so she had lifelong vows and then certain things she will decide every day. Now what happened when she was here, that morning in Samaik, she decided, I'm not going to go in the water today. And it's my fault, poor thing. We didn't tell her we were going to take her to Niagara Falls that day. So we reached there and we're buying tickets. We already bought tickets for the boat. And she's like, oh, I can't go in this because I took a vow this morning that I'm not going to go in water. And she was absolutely right. Why would she going to go in the water? It's out of her dreams. And it was poor of me to not inform her because I didn't think that she would be taking vows like that. So we ended up going, and yeah, it's unfortunate. I made her break her vow. But at least rest of the time she was keeping all her vows. So okay, fine. So once in a while, even if you broke the vow, it's better to have the habit of taking the vows rather than not.
And one, I had asked the same question to somebody long time back, and I don't know how relevant this example is, but what they said was, let's say you leave your home and what you do is you shut off, let's say your electricity, whatever you want to shut it off, right? So आपका बिल एकदम मिनिमम आता है, पर बिल आ रहा है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी चालू है, आपके घर में जो म्युनिसिपैलिटी से जो कनेक्शन है उतना तो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी चल ही रहा है, तो आपका बिल जा रहा है. पर अगर आपने म्युनिसिपैलिटी को फोन कर दिया और बोला कि हमारा बिल मतलब इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कट कर दो, तो आपको $0 बिल आएगा. So it is the same thing when you're not going to when you know for 10 years you're not going to go to Antarctica में कुछ भी अगर पाप हो रहा है तो वो तुमको उसका कुछ नहीं लगने वाला है, right? Because you have said मैं नहीं करूंगी, right?
Right, exactly.
That's what I was told. I don't know how it applies.
That's true. So these are real consequences. And you can
तुमने वो बाधा ले ली और 60 किलोमीटर के आज ऊपर जाना नहीं है, बस बता दिया. अगर किसी ने तुम्हें ये लालच दी कि अरे नहीं अब चलो आज पुणे चलते हैं, राइट? So 60 kilometer के बाहर चला गया Pune, let's say for you, wherever you are. Now you're like, okay, well, you know what? I've taken 60 kilometer का वादा, आज नहीं जाएंगे, right?
Exactly.
Maybe we'll do it tomorrow.
The worst case scenario, sometime even if you break, but majority of the times you won't.
Yes.
Really compelling situation comes. You will think multiple times before breaking that vow. But if you don't have a vow, then what? Okay, let's go. No problem.
और वो 14 नियम इतने सिंपल है कि उसमें ये होता है कि आज मैं 3, मतलब जितनी भी मिठाई तुमको करना है कि आज मेरे को 7 मिठाई खानी है, ठीक है, 7 मिठाई खाओ, बट एटलीस्ट यू आर curtailing yourself from hundreds of other mithais that are available in the market, right?
Yes, that is true. So yeah, there is definitely, and more than that, it just makes you a more aware person and more conscientious. So otherwise you are like open to do all the paths without even thought. See, like we being Jains, being born in Jain families, we have this sanskar, right? So we don't even have the courage to right away kill somebody.
Yeah.
Versus the meat eaters or the what do you call, relative to us, they are less sensitive to killing. So the more you do these things, the more you make yourself that kind of aware soul. That's the purpose of all this.
तुम्हारा छोटे छोटे अनुव्रत लेने से अनुशासन और डिसिप्लिन तुम में बढ़ जाता है, and you have the courage and the discipline to even take bigger breaths, right? Like
And
that.
not only that, it helps you not be extra greedy, not be too much desireful all the time, right? Otherwise there's no limits. ये कर लिया तो अब वो कर लो, वो कर लिया तो वो कर लो, that is what this whole world is all about. So then it becomes like you need nth level of things to be happy. You're so dependent on so much. So it is more than just restricting. It kind of, there is a wide range of things it helps you with. Okay, Shiksha Vrat. Was it Amitji who was going to read?
It's me actually.
Okay, go ahead. Starts with Samayik Vrat.
Next one is Prashodopavas Vrata, correct?
Yeah, in English it is, yeah.
I think there's a difference in English and Hindi.
There's Shiksha Vrat in Hindi.
Should I read from Hindi version? I have got the Hindi one open.
That's fine. You can read them.
Okay.
Have they missed it in English?
Numbering is a mistake in the English, I think. It's showing 2.
No, but I don't even see Shiksha Vrat in the English.
Yeah, I think it is missed out completely. I think so.
Yeah, maybe.
I think something is missing because it starts with the second one.
Correct.
Prashodopavas. She missed the whole paragraph.
Prashodopavas. So that's the second one. So I'll read from the Hindi one.
That's fine. Yeah.
Shiksha Vrat.
Make a note, Amitji. She probably missed that. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Samayik Vrat. Prashodopavas Vrat. भोगोपभोग परिमाण व्रत और अतिथि संविभाग व्रत, ये 4 शिक्षा व्रत हैं। इसमें पहला है सामायिक व्रत। संपूर्ण द्रव्य में राग देश के त्याग पूर्वक समता भाव का अवलंबन करके आत्म भाव की प्राप्ति करना ही सामायिक है। व्रती श्रावकों को प्रातः दोपहर साय कम से कम अंत मुहूर्त एकांत स्थान में सामायिक करना सामायिक व्रत है। प्रोषोपवास व्रत कषाय विषय और आहार का त्याग करके आत्म स्वभाव के समीप ठहरना उपवास है। प्रत्येक अष्टमी एवं चतुर्दशी को सर्वारंभ छोड़कर उपवास करना ही प्रोषोदोपवास है। यह 3 प्रकार से किया जाता है, उत्तम, मध्यम और जघन्य। उत्तम पर्व के एक दिन पूर्व एक दिन बाद एकासन पूर्वक पर्व के दिन पूर्ण उपवास करना उत्तम प्रोषोदोपवास है। मध्यम, केवल पर्व के दिन उपवास करना मध्यम प्रोषोदोपवास है। और जघन्य, पर्व के दिन केवल एक आसन करना जघन्य प्रोषोदोपवास है। Should I read this in English
But
also?
then let the next
It's
person
available. This
understand.
one is available in English as well.
Right. No, that's fine. So here we are talking about Samaik Vrat, which is taking vow of 48 minutes, to an hour, whatever, and sitting with yourself. Now, originally, it's basically contemplating on your soul. If you don't have the habit, you don't think you can do that for an hour, then you sit with the book and read. But it helps you being focused for that long time. And I would recommend that if you guys can, take a Samaik when you're studying for exams, when you're just doing your assignments. That way you're not distracted. So you just have that 1 hour focus time to do this, and then you're done. It's a lot easier to do it that way. Now, Poshadopana, that nowadays is not as easy to do, but in the old times when there was joint families, what they would do is if somebody wanted to do upvas, they would excuse themselves from pehle kya hota tha na, joint family mein businesses would be together, so 2-3 people have combined business, so one person could take off and say I'm doing upvas today, so he would not be involved in it says sarv arambh. Arambh means anything duties related to occupation, cooking, house duties. You don't do any of that. Focus on your soul, and you do Uttam Upvas. Used to be first day you do eat one time, second day you don't eat, third day again you eat one time. That is the Uttam Upvas. The Madhyam is whole day, you don't, just one day, 24 hours, or I guess it comes out to be 32 hours when you don't eat at night. And then Jaganya is just Ekasan, like one time you eat. So those are the 3 types of Poshadopvas. Okay. Now, not everybody is able to do nowadays Poshadopvas, which is leave all the essential duties. Nowadays people do just basically it's called what do you call Anshan. So they just don't eat, and sometimes they still go to work, or women, if it's only one person doing the household work, they don't have a choice but to at least continue with their household duties. Okay, Dipali, the next one. Go poke.
Read it in English or Hindi. Is there one? Where is it? Bhogo Upabhog Pariman Vrat, the vow of limiting consumable and reusable items of enjoyments, even within the limitations already imposed on possession of worldly objects, to decrease the passions and further limit the usage of consumables and reusable objects of sensual pleasures, is Bhogo Upabhog Pariman Vrat. Bhogo refers to those sensual pleasures that can be enjoyed only once, and those that can be enjoyed repeatedly is upabhog.
Okay. So let's quickly explain that. Then you can, Dinesh, you can read the Atiti Samvibhag. So bhog and upbhog. So they are assuming that you've already taken some parigraha vrat, which means you've limited, certain things. Now within that, they're saying that you can also limit, for example, how many. So bhog, upbhog, right? Bhog is something that you can, again and again you can use, which is like furniture, house, shoes, all those. Okay. Upabhog is food items that you consume only once. So
it's the reverse, no?
It's the reverse maybe. Okay. Bhog or bar bag bhogne mein aave. No, it's right. Sorry. I read it wrong. Okay. Right. So the ones that you only use it once is bhog, and again is upbhog. Okay. So your furniture and all that is upbhog, and food items is bhog. Now, so the way you understand the example is, let's say you have $1 million in the bank. Is it earning interest every day?
Yes.
Now you have all these consumables open to you. Can you get pop every day? Yes. On all of the things that you are not using, unless you limit them, that I'm only going to use so many. So you could limit that I'm only going to use so many beds in a day. So I'm only going to use 3 beds. Most likely you will only use 1 bedroom, right? Your own bed. But let's say someday you had guests and you had to go sleep in the kids' room, whatever, or so, like that. But you can still limit it versus millions of beds in this world. And same thing for sofas, same thing for whatever you can think of. Now, upabhog or bhog or vik, I'm getting confused again. Anyway, so food items. So if you know you're only going to eat 10 vegetables today, or maybe 15, you can't possibly eat more than that much variety in general on a routine day. So you take a vow that I'm not going to eat more than so many. So now you've limited to those 10 or those 15. At least you're not getting a puff of all of them, right? Now, even Jamaican, let's say you don't normally have a vow of lifetime, but you know that this week when you're in your own house, you may not be able to consume. You are okay to not consume root vegetables. Then you take a vow for that week. So
many of us do that during Purushan, right? We'll take separate vows.
we all try to do that during Purushan, right? We give green vegetables or at least Jamaican or whatever we can limit. So that practice can be continued on a little lesser scale. You don't want to make it to be very stressful for you, but whatever you can decide that, okay, let me control of this for this week. Or if you don't know what your days are going to be, every morning you can say, because you kind of know what's happening. You're not going to go out or not out going away. So you know you're within your limits of your house, then you know what are the things you'll consume and not consume. And you can accordingly take a vow that I'm not going to consume these things. You can even simple as that. Today I'm going to have gluten-free, or I'm going to be vegan, or I'm going to be no Jamaican. Those mota cheezein that is easy to remember. Okay, all right. Now Atiti Samvibhag.
Is that me? Okay.
Yes.
Atiti Samvibhag Vrat, the vow to offer food and other essentials to worthy guests. So sharing one's meals with monks, Vrati Shravak and Avrati Shravak, vowed and non-vowed householders, in a proper prescribed process is the Atiti Samvibhag Vrat. A lay follower, Shravak, who observes the aforementioned 12 vows without transgressions and with true right belief, Nishchay Samyak Darshan, is called a vow-observing lay follower, Vrati Shravak. Because without right faith and right knowledge, real vows and other spiritual disciplines cannot genuinely exist. Also, with the purity of the soul that emerges with real right faith and knowledge, and in the absence of infinitely binding, deluding passions, Anantanubandhi Kashai, and the passions that prevent taking vows of self-restraint, Apratyakhana Avarana Kashai, an enlightened householder naturally craves to observe the above 12 vows. The auspicious dispositions of observing the vows without knowledge of soul, Atma Dhyana, is not real observance of the vows.
Okay, so even though they are not real observance, still they are Shubh Bhav, right? So Shubh Bhav kya karega aapko? Punya dega. And punya is still meritorious karmas, even though ultimately you don't want any karmas. But until you get to that level, instead of getting bad karmas, at least you want to have good karmas. So following all these vratas is okay in that aspect. Now, Atithi Samvibhag, sharing a portion of your food with a guest. And best guest is Muni, of course, then Shravak, Prati Shravak, and then any of those levels, anybody, scholars coming to give lectures or anybody knowledgeable. Then next level would be your sadharmi. Then, of course, any needy person and all that also eventually comes in this category. But that's kind of the level. So, if you wanted to decide what is best and that way. So sometimes they say that here, of course, the Muniraj don't come, they don't travel. But just being mindful, when you start eating the first bite, you say you wish for it, that, oh, I wish I would be someday somewhere where I can give food to the Muniraj. And that way you can have the bhav of Atiti something. All right. So we finished the Bada Vrat.
And this Vrat only applies to Jain Munis and Jains, either Vrati Shravak or Avrati Shravak. So, for example, if you're sharing your food with a food bank or like a soup kitchen, that won't count.
That would be lower quality, but no, you can do that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You should actually. There's nothing wrong with it, but it will be lower quality, of course.
Yeah. And I just had one question from before, and number 2, the Prashoda Upavasa Vrat. So उसमें लिखा है कि अष्टमी और चतुर्दशी. So I see this again and again, Ashtami and Chaturdashi. So do you know the significance of why these tithis in particular are important in Jainism?
There is some significance based on the ocean waves. Okay, they say when you have the high tide or whatever, low tide, that your body is most favorable to do those kind of upvas. Okay. Now, that is one just cosmic reason, but then you also, in general, if you do Ashtami Chaturdashi, guess what's going to happen? It's going to be 1 upvas per week. Right? So that is just enough gap to give your stomach a rest. So even in general, for your other healthy, health reasons also, it's a good idea to do this.
But you don't know, for example, but why they don't take Saptami and Trayodashi?
Okay, no, of course they could take anything. This is just, see, in the society, you need some kind of discipline, right? So people will go to the acharyas and ask. So then, well, there is some cosmic reason to it. So they say that when the ocean is on whatever high or low tide, because body is also 80% water, so there is some synchronization, so it makes it easy to do vrat. So that is one reason. I don't know all the details of it. This is whatever generally I've heard. So that there is some reason to this Ashtami Chaturdashi. And of course, the discipline is another reason. So what happens is, I sometimes, like when I'm not traveling, I try to do Ashtami and Chaturdashi upvas. So what happens is sometimes the Jaina calendar doesn't match our temple calendar, and that doesn't match some panchang. So those Ashtami.
The panchangs are different depending on who's doing it.
So my rule is this: if I feel that I'm going to be, it's going to be difficult for me to do it on the weekend. Let's say some important event is coming up, where I feel that it's going to be too much to explain to everybody that, oh, I have upvas today, I'm not eating. So then I pick another day. I'll do it the day before. So you have to suit yourself that way. Of course, if the stricter you can be, the better. But if being stricter causes more kashai, then pick what is next best rather than put yourself in a difficult situation. Or don't do it at all. So it's better to do it on another day than not do it at all, because you couldn't do it Ashtami and Chaturdashi because it fell on a weekend.
Right.
Okay. And people do upvas a lot of other days too, other than Ashtami Chaturdashi. That is just for ease, just to guide, people that, okay, at least do that much.
और इसमें ये भी लिखा है जो मध्यम and jaganiya fasting, जो 3 उपास बोले, so they're saying that the super fast is that एक asana करना, फिर उपवास करना, फिर एक asana करना. Now obviously if you do tela or atam, right, they call it, I think 3 days fasting, can we just infer that is even more superior than
of course,
doing? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And I think this Chat and Attam was based on that. So if you ate only twice a day, then 2 days would be those how does that work? Yeah. So like one upvas, 2 meals, that is 4 meals, and one the previous day and one the next day. So that's 6 meals. Kind of, I think that's how they counted that Chattanatam. But most people nowadays don't follow it that way. They just simply 3 days. If they didn't eat, they call it Attam.
I mean, there's such a large variety of fasts, Jainism.
Yeah, this is just for us to know, and one can make their own. You can decide that, okay, my body doesn't have the ability to stay hungry 24 hours. Fine, I'm going to take a vow of 4 hours, whatever I can do, and that's fine. One shouldn't feel compelled to do it if your body doesn't allow you to. But yet, it's okay to test your body once in a while. So to see if you have the ability to. Okay. Now, we have 5-10 minutes left. I'm going to quickly clarify that Mati Gri. I think we did pretty a lot of discussion on that Mati Gyan, Shrut Gyan, and all that. But again, just to clarify, Mati Gyan is, I'll read. In fact, I will advise that you guys also will put this in some Google Drive and share it with you. There is this book called Jain Siddhant Praveshika. This is a lot of Jain terminologies, and Kirit Bhai Gosalia has done a wonderful job of translating this book in English. So it explains a lot of these terminologies, okay? So Mati Gyanan is just a word knowledge. For example, if I say Guy, so Guy is Guy, a picture of Guy comes to my mind. That's simply Mati Gyanan. Now I analyze it. Oh, the cow, it gives milk. Oh, the cow, it can have a baby. A cow, and all the peripheral, all the other knowledge is the Shrut Gyan. Shrut Gyan can come from books, can come from Shastras, can come from hearing from other people. And now you have the ability to analyze. So that is Shrut Gyan. And we already established in the class when we studied this that darshan happens just before Gyan, right? So darshan is that kind of a blob type of a feeling. Like you don't even see the complete akar, right? Just there is something, that type of a thing. Now, even Jati Smaran, I don't know if we clarified this in the past, because Jati Smaran is not here in the book, is also a type of Mati Gyan. So they can
What is Jati Smaran?
A previous life recalling your previous life events.
So that is Mati Dhyan. That's not like Avadhi Dhyan or Mana Pariyaya Dhyan.
Avadhi Dhyan is not future, it is only past and present, but it can be, it has limitations how far it can go. And it can be different limitations for different people. So Avadhi Gyan can clearly see what is happening in India. It only applies to Pudgal, of course, but like clearly see that.
And that's the present, right? Avadhi Dhyan?
It can be present, also past.
Also past, okay.
Not future, though.
Okay.
Okay. And now Mati Gyan, here they have not explained, even within Mati Gyan, there is 4 types, which I will tell you now, but if you get confused, then don't think about it. Okay, we'll understand it further when we have to in the course. Okay, there's Avagraha, Iha, Avai, and Dharna. Those are 4 types of Mati Gyan. Okay, I'll just read them. You don't need to take notes. This is not part of your syllabus. But this is just to clarify further about, because you guys had a lot of question about Mati Gyan. So the first stage in a perception consists of general knowledge of the object when it is brought into the contact with sense organ. First, there is an excitation in the sense organ by the stimulus, example, the object in the outside world. Then there is excitation in the consciousness, so that feeling that there is something. Therefore, in the first stage of perception, a person is barely conscious of the existence of an object. Example, this is a human being. Now, next step. So first was perception, then conception, which is called Iha in Hindi. And this is all in cognitive. Mati Gyan is cognitive knowledge. In the conception state, there is a desire to know the particulars of an object, a desire to know whether it is this or that. Thus, similarities and differences of the object with other objects become the subject of consciousness, right? You can figure out who it is. In the stage, in conception, the doubt about an object created by perception becomes clarified. Example, this person is Mr. So-and-so, Mr. Chakradas or whatever. This stage in the conception part of the knowledge is weak. And if it does not progress to be the next level of knowledge, then at a later time period, it may promote doubt or may eventually be forgotten. So if you have Mati Gyan up to that level, you may forget it, or you may not remember the connection. Okay? Now, the third level of Mati Gyan is judgment, which is Avai in the cognitive knowledge. In the judgment stage, there is definite finding of the particulars, which may be further examined in the second stage of conception. The second stage is merely an attempt to define the particulars, while the judgment stage examines the assertiveness of these particulars. The cognitive knowledge of the conception becomes solidified in the judgment. Example, he can be nobody else but Mr. Chakradas. There's an example. In the final judgment of the knowledge, there are no remaining doubts. However, later the knowledge may be forgotten. So you've still not made it your own, so you may still forget it. Now there is the fourth stage of Mati Gyan, which is retention, that is called dharana in cognitive knowledge. In the fourth stage, retention consists of lasting impressions that result after the object with its particulars is definitely ascertained. It is this impression, which is sanskar again. So sanskar is what we take. What becomes sanskar? That makes an impact on you. That can stay with you till your next life, right? Which enables us to remember the object afterwards. Memory, therefore, is the result of 4 successive stages of perception, conception, judgment, and retention of the cognitive knowledge. In the retention type of cognitive knowledge, there is an absence of doubt. The object cannot now be forgotten. Now, and then there are further types of Mati Gyan, the one that can be expressed and non-expressed. So there is a lot more about just the Mati Gyan. But the reason I read all these things is so that you can understand, because in the class there was some confusion between Mati Gyan and Darshan, or Shuddh Gyan and Mati Gyan. Now, Mati Gyan can apply to both soul as well as the material world. Avdi Gyan is only for the matter. It doesn't apply to soul. There is a difference between the two. Okay. So if somebody recalls previous births, that is also Mati Gyan, because they had it within their dharana and they could recall that far back. And so the sanskars we take, let's say we don't get some impression, yet after this knowledge, we have a very firm conviction of who we are. That goes with us, and which makes it very easy in the next life to get that experience of the soul. And Shrutha Gyan then is the analyzing aspect of it. Okay, is that clear, or any other questions? Since we didn't have time to start the next chapter, I thought I'll just quickly summarize that again.
I think we're finished with what we have. So the next chapter will be sent.
Yeah, we'll start next class, which is Mukti Ka Marg, okay?
And ye chapter में that one part is missing about the Shiksha Vrat.
Right.
So
We read it in Hindi and yeah. Actually, do me a favor, as she do we care to get another PDF after she fixes it?
Yeah, it would be good, right, to have it, or maybe after we are integrating the entire thing, because we had chapter 1 to 5 as a separate PDF, and then 6th as a separate one. And I believe she sent me a message that the 7th to
She
10th
sent
or
me the
9th.
7th already. So she's probably just sending us chapter by chapter in case we reach to that point where we need to cover it in the class.
Yeah.
So she's trying to do that as she progresses.
So maybe at the end, right, if she's planning to combine all the chapters into one PDF with all these corrections, I think that can be circulated to everyone, right? So that when everybody is revising it, right, they can use that.
Right. So she has finished up to 8th chapter.
7th and 8th, that's what she mentioned. Yeah.
For us, so we don't miss out, when we are doing the classes. So that's good. That's nice of her.
So Prabha, if you can send it, then we can be prepared for the next one, because next we'll be starting with 7th, right?
In fact, if you think it's not too time consuming, because these chapters are relatively very small, 4 to 5 pages. If you think you can do a quick glance where if she has missed something like this,
I can do that. Yeah, I can compare the Hindi and this. Another eye would help.
Right. Because what happens is that when she's working on this alone, this needs a lot of focus. So it's easy to miss out on things.
Agree.
That would really help. So if you can do it for chapter, and if there is something she has missed, send it to her and let her send the corrected version to us before next class.
I'll do that. I'll send today's whatever we found, couple of them, right, to her right now itself.
Yes. Yeah, it's unfortunate we cannot do this for every class, every book. It just so happens right now it's just happening in sync, which is
that's fine.
Okay, great. All right, so the class here. Sahajanandi Shuddha Swarupi Avinashi Hu Atma Swarup. Sahajanandi Shuddha Swarupi Avinashi Hu Atma Swarup. Sahajanandi Shuddha Swarupi Avinashi Hu Atma Swarup. निज निधि निज में बताई यह अनंत उपकार है इसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना शत बार है वंदना शत बार है